This video was brought to you by our old friends Squarespace. If you're looking to create a website, portfolio, blog, or online store, Squarespace gives you all the tools you need from start to finish. And I should know because I used Squarespace to build my production company's website, galaxyclasspictures.com. I didn't know the first thing about coding, but I didn't need to. I simply selected a template from Squarespace's vast array of options and then customized it to fit my needs. Designing is now easier than ever thanks to Squarespace's new AI-powered blueprint system, which perfectly tailors your website design to your needs. And with integrated SEO tools, you can ensure your site will reach more people more often, so your site can grow the way you want. Jump over to Squarespace using the link below to start building your site, and use the coupon code Rowan J. Coleman to get 10% off your first purchase. Stargate had been a fixture of science fiction television since the mid-90s. After 10 seasons of SG-1 and 5 seasons of Atlantis, the mythos was set to continue as a series of straight-to-DVD movies, offering Stargate's creative team more freedom, larger budgets, and a bigger return. But they weren't ready to abandon television completely. Stargate's third small-screen incarnation came into being during one of the most turbulent eras of the mythos, and sooner than anyone expected, the writing would be on the wall for Stargate. The show that would become Stargate Universe was originally conceived in 2007, long before Stargate Atlantis was cancelled and producers Brad Wright and Robert C. Cooper had shifted their focus to the Stargate movies. The idea was to create a wholly distinct entity, which could serve as a jumping-on point for new viewers, unlike Atlantis, which was a direct spin-off from SG-1. Wright and Cooper also envisioned a show which would be stylistically and tonally very different from what came before. Rather than the tongue-in-cheek fun of previous Stargate shows, Universe would be grittier and more mature, aimed at a broader adult audience. By 2007, Wright and Cooper had been working on Stargate for well over a decade, and so they sought to make Stargate fresh again with this new incarnation. In an interview leading up to Stargate's release, Cooper explained, "I think one of the things that sort of bothered me as a producer was that we tried very hard to make a little movie every week, a feature film. I'm not selling it short, but my point is that the mentality was going into it with the idea of not trying to reach beyond the means of our budget. Not trying to make a $100 million film with significantly less than that, but rather make a great television show and shoot it in such a way that would embrace the elements that are going to be spectacular, which are the actors and the stories and the characters, and not reach beyond our capabilities budget-wise of making something that, at the end of the day to certain audiences, might come across as being silly." Though pitched in 2007, further development on Stargate Universe was put on hold while Wright and Cooper focused on the Arc of Truth and Continuum, and was further delayed by a writer's strike. This meant the official announcement for Stargate Universe came shortly after Stargate Atlantis was cancelled. Due to the anger over this abrupt cancellation, Wright and Cooper's comments about the fresh approach to SGU were perceived by some fans that the producers were somehow embarrassed by previous Stargate shows. The perception was that the duo weren't happy with what the fans were, cancelling the well-liked Stargate Atlantis in favour of a darker, grittier Stargate series aimed at a different audience. Not everyone shared this view, and Wright and Cooper stated many times in interviews and forum posts that this wasn't the case. However, it didn't bode well that many fans were approaching Stargate Universe with great trepidation rather than excitement. Award-winning Scottish actor Robert Carlyle was the first to be cast as Dr. Nicholas Rush, the troubled chief scientist of the Icarus Project. Though Carlyle had made forays into genre fare in the horror cult classic Ravenous and the James Bond outing The World Is Not Enough, he was mostly known for dramas like Trainspotting and Hitler the Rise of Evil. Carlyle's repertoire featured many intense, sometimes disturbed characters, and grounded dramatic performances. Landing such an admired actor was quite the coup for the new Stargate series, and was another statement of creative intent by the producers. Luis Ferreira was a veteran of thriller shows and movies, having appeared in 24, CSI, and Shooter when he was cast as Colonel Everett Young in Stargate Universe. David Blue was an enormous fan of Stargate, having watched every episode of SG-1 and Atlantis by the time he landed the role of Eli Wallace in Universe. Brian J. Smith was in the early years of his career when he was cast as Matthew Scott. He would later go on to star in the cult classic sci-fi series Sense8. Jamil Walker-Smith, who was cast as Ron Greer, had a much more prolific career, having had numerous regular voice acting roles and guest acting roles across network TV and independent film. Elena Huffman was cast as Tamara Johansson. Like Walker-Smith, Huffman had a steady career of guest roles on television. Before joining Stargate, she had appeared in Smallville as Black Canary, and she later landed recurring roles in Supernatural, The 100, and Riverdale. Elise Levesque, who was cast as Chloe Armstrong, had also appeared in Smallville, as well as the failed television remake of Flash Gordon before Stargate. Rounding out the regular cast was Ming-Na Wen as Camille Ray. Wen was known as the voice of Mulan in the original Disney classic, and had also lent her voice to the character Aki Ross in Final Fantasy The Spirits Within. She had a successful career across TV and film before and after Stargate, recently joining the Star Wars universe as Fennec Shand. Appearing in recurring roles were Lou Diamond Phillips as Colonel David Telford, Julia Benson as Lieutenant Vanessa James, Patrick Gilmore as Dr. Dale Volker, Peter Kalarmis as Adam Brody, and Jennifer Spence as Dr. Lisa Park. The series was shot mostly in and around Vancouver, with sets built across 3 sound stages at Bridge Studios. For the pilot episode, location filming also took place in the New Mexico desert. Each episode cost roughly $2 million. The show was shot using the Panavision Genesis cameras, the same camera used to shoot Superman Returns. The shooting style was markedly different than previous Stargate shows, with an emphasis on handheld camera and high-contrast hard lighting. For the premiere episode, Richard Dean Anderson, Amanda Tapping, and Michael Shanks all reprised their respective SG-1 roles to pass the baton to the new cast. The visual effects of the show were handled by an in-house team at Bridge Studios, with assistance from Image Engine and Atmosphere Visual Effects, among others. The show required new CG models of the Hatak motherships and Death Gliders, as well as the Destiny itself. The Destiny, being an older variant of ancient technology, was given a low-tech steampunk look, with dashes of H.R. Giger for inspiration. Just like Atlantis, this new show's Stargates were made distinct from those in SG-1. As well as carrying over the steampunk biomechanical look of the Destiny, the entire gate rotated in place, driven by a motor built underneath the set floor. The ever-reliable Joel Goldsmith once again scored the series, creating a wholly different sounding score to previous Stargate shows. Rather than a bombastic orchestral sound, Goldsmith infused Universe with more electronica, rock, and world music. While not having room for a full theme like SG-1 or Atlantis, Goldsmith did compose a signature motif using a distorted Indian Delruba instrument. In another departure from previous Stargate shows, Universe also featured a large number of songs. The 3-part opening episode, Air, featured the song Breathe by Alexi Murdoch, and Janelle Monáe's Sincerely Jane is used later in Season 1. After a long gestation, Stargate Universe debuted on the Sci-Fi Channel on the 2nd of October 2009. If you're enjoying this retrospective review, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, or if you want to support this channel more directly, join my Patreon where you can see videos like this early, uncut, and ad-free. Stargate Universe's new tone and style are set right from the opening scene. The slow introduction of the Destiny, accompanied by Joel Goldsmith's haunting score, creates a thick atmosphere of melancholy and mystery before we come to the familiar Stargate. This time, however, rather than a gateway to adventure, the Stargate becomes an instrument of chaos as dozens of people are catapulted through, becoming bruised and bloody as they smash into the floor and collide with each other. Further precedents are broken by the episode's non-linear structure, and further departures from Stargate's established tone. The action is grittier, with emphasis placed on the injuries sustained by the characters. The characters themselves are more conflicted, often breaking into bouts of anger and panic. And in general, there is more sex and violence than in previous shows. It could be argued there was a basis for this change in content. After all, SG-1's first year on Showtime featured even stronger nudity and violence than Universe. However, that show quickly course-corrected to a more family-friendly style, and the following 14 seasons stuck to this mold. Therefore, it's understandable why Stargate Universe's abrupt stylistic changes were so jarring to so many fans at the time. Despite these differences, however, Universe does reveal itself as quintessential Stargate at its core. Although Universe is generally darker than previous shows, there are flashes of Stargate's signature humor and adventurous spirit.
I thought I saw the Statue of Liberty sticking half out of the sand. Just for a second there. I was all ready to yell, "Damn you all to hell."
The Destiny itself is a masterwork of design, feeling instantly iconic with its elegant shape and rich details. The H.R. Giger-inspired steampunk aesthetic, coupled with the high-contrast lighting, work together to create an impression of something wondrous yet haunted. The documentary-style presentation, though, has mixed results. The cinematography is generally strong, creating a lot of depth in its use of shadow and vibrancy in its mix of color temperatures. The direction is also solid, the show having inherited many of SG-1 and Atlantis' veteran directors who make sure to create strong compositions and block the actors in such a way that they never feel cluttered in ensemble shots. This is why the constant jitter of the handheld camera doesn't end up adding much to the show's presentation. Ultimately, it's difficult to see what justified this documentary style, especially when Eli starts making an in-universe documentary, which ironically uses these smooth, wide-angle Kino cameras. What's most refreshing, however, is the plot of Universe's debut episode. Having watched SG-1 and the Atlantis expedition grapple with time travel, alternate dimensions, and galactic threats, the three-part premiere Air being a simple survival story is a welcome change of pace. Carrying over Stargate's well-maintained internal logic and in-universe consistency drives a tense plot which keeps you on the edge of your seat until the final act. Critical reception to the episode was generally positive, though, like some fans, several critics took issue with the stylistic changes. The first episode had a solid debut of 2.3 million viewers, healthy ratings, but viewership fell short of both SG-1 and Atlantis' premiere episodes. The creative team had taken a big swing at revitalizing the Stargate mythos, but following Air's debut, they were still holding their breath.
Just breathe.
The following episodes, Darkness, Light, and Water, continue many of Air's strengths. Small-scale survival stories built on personal stakes and driven by ingenuitive plotting. There's an overriding sense of desperation in many stories, as the Destiny crew cling to life aboard a ship they have no knowledge or control over, and seems to have a will of its own. Light sees most of the crew resigned to their deaths when it appears Destiny is on a collision course with a star. But after sending away a small group of survivors, the remaining crew discover this is simply part of Destiny's refueling process.
You're telling me this ship
is powered by the stars themselves. Solar powered, quite literally. There is no other explanation.
In Water, Young and Scott race to replenish the ship's water supply from an ice planet before Destiny jumps into FTL and leaves them behind.
All I'm saying is, if you delay much longer...
Listen to me. I know exactly what you're saying, and I'm not going anywhere without Lieutenant Scott, and that's the way it's gonna be.
Destiny itself continues to be an enduring mystery, and the part of space it occupies feels truly alien. Unlike previous Stargate shows which depicted planets inhabited by the ancient peoples of Earth, Universe inhabits completely new territory. The alien life forms the Destiny crew encounters are truly alien and truly terrifying. There's a strong sense of loneliness and isolation to Stargate Universe, which other stranded in space style shows like Star Trek Voyager never managed to capture. This bleakness is often what justifies the conflict between characters. Some Stargate fans criticized this aspect of the show as lacking the camaraderie of SG-1 or Atlantis, but it's worth remembering that none of the characters in Universe chose this fate. The cast of Universe would be the background characters of any other Stargate show. They weren't handpicked as the best of the best to go off on a mission. They're the B team who would have ordinarily played support roles for SG-1 or the Atlantis expedition. They have been thrown to the other side of the universe, under-equipped, undersupplied, and undermanned. The focus on character conflict and the strain among the crew leads to some of Season 1's best episodes, such as the mid-season episode Divided.
What's done is done.
I already have the food and water supplies. Plus, control of all accessible systems has been transferred over to the consoles on my side of the line.
At times, however, this focus can detract from the show, typified by the controversial inclusion of the communication stones. In some ways, the communication stones are a thematically powerful idea. The ability of the characters to switch bodies with people back on Earth is equally a blessing and a curse. It allows the characters to return to their loved ones, but it also makes the gulf between them even more apparent.
Is it really you?
你把那个旧烂的凳子丢掉了吗？
Conceptually, the idea is fascinating, and the mechanics of the stones facilitate some extremely creative plots throughout the show. However, the stones also facilitate what can best be described as soap opera content. Considering all the mystery and intrigue built up around the Destiny and this region of space, Colonel Young worrying about his wife having an affair, and Lieutenant Scott discovering he has a son from a previous relationship doesn't warrant much interest. Rather than fleshing out the characters, these story threads feel like extraneous drama which does little to enhance the larger arcs of the show. Indeed, the negative reaction to this material by certain fans was a part of a larger backlash from a vocal portion of Stargate's longtime viewers. Despite the attempt at making Universe a jumping-on point for new viewers, the show never really broke out into the mainstream the way Battlestar Galactica did a few years earlier. As a result, most of the audience for Universe were longtime fans, who were extremely divided on the show. While some of the backlash was understandable, the vitriol often hurled at the series was unjustified. The comparison to Battlestar Galactica is obvious, and the influence over SGU's tone and style is undeniable. This is not necessarily a bad thing, however. Battlestar Galactica itself was overtly influenced by 24 and The West Wing, and previous Stargate shows pulled from adventure stories like Lawrence of Arabia and Indiana Jones. There's nothing wrong with taking inspiration from other works. However, the close proximity of Battlestar Galactica and Stargate Atlantis' Cancellation led to the view among certain fans that Brad Wright and Robert C. Cooper were abandoning what made Stargate special in an attempt to chase popular trends.
When we premiered, some publicist, in the same press release where they were announcing that Atlantis was getting canceled, they announced us. One had nothing to do with the other. They were done doing Atlantis.
Your name came associated with...
I mean, not my name, personally. Good Lord, that would have been terrible. But no, they literally, like in the next sentence, it was like, we're ending Stargate Atlantis. However, we have a new show. And you're like, And I, even as a fan, I was like, no, you just stepped in it.
Yeah.
And immediately people blamed us. They thought we were the reason. Had nothing to do with it. They were gonna be done with Atlantis regardless.
This wasn't helped by Stargate Universe at face value, including many elements which Stargate itself had lampooned in SG-1's 200th episode.
I think you need a strong opening title sequence.
Are you serious? No one does that anymore. You just throw up the title and get on with it.
So sick of being treated like some sort of object to be worshipped. I'm a real person with real feelings.
You know, I don't think Mitchell likes me anymore.
My life was so shallow and pointless. And then I started working with my dad. I really thought that I could do something, make a difference.
Though the tone and style of Universe may be different, at its heart it's quintessential Stargate. Anyone who doubts this should look to episodes like Time and Lost. The former is a complex time loop scenario, while the latter sees Eli, Chloe, Greer, and Scott racing through a chain of stargates to catch up with Destiny before it moves out of range. Both plots feel like they could easily work in either SG-1 or Atlantis, however they are elevated by Universe's unique style. Time has a delightfully schlocky horror movie feel to it, and thanks to the show's more R-rated leanings, it's allowed to be more graphic and scary, with a well-executed found footage gimmick. Meanwhile, Lost's planet hopping is made more grueling and high stakes by Universe's emphasis on gritty survival tropes rather than spacefaring adventure. It's still Stargate, just with a new coat of paint. An undeniable triumph is Robert Carlyle's Nicholas Rush. Carlyle brings a raw intensity to his performance which is as magnetic as it is agonizing. And this duality is perfectly fitting for Rush as a character, who is something of an enigma throughout the show. In some ways, he can be viewed as the show's main villain, a heartless egomaniac who will do anything to survive. Then again, he can be seen simply as the ultimate pragmatist, putting emotion aside in the moment to accomplish his mission, but a caring person deep down. Neither label seems to definitively describe the man. Just when the viewer has him pegged as cruel and manipulative, he suddenly does something heroic or says something kind. There's a lot of ambiguity surrounding Rush, with neither the viewer nor the characters ever quite knowing what to make of him. It isn't until the episode Human that we start to get a peek behind the curtain, though at first glance the episode makes clear that Rush is a man grief-stricken over the death of his wife. There's still more to it than that. Ultimately, Rush is a desperately lonely man, not because of who he's lost, but because he sees others as beneath him. He believes only in himself and his abilities. Other people are merely tools he can use to further his own goals. However, Rush is just as much a victim of his own egotism as everyone else.
You tell yourself my death gave you courage. In truth, it made you callous. You're not the man I loved.
He died with you.
I was never your conscience, Nicholas.
I love you, Nick. But you don't.
No. Of course I do. I do love you. I swear it.
Goodbye.
He'd like to believe he stands apart from others because of his superior intellect, but there's a gnawing feeling that he is simply a callous and selfish person. He at once craves the approval of others, but thinks of himself as better than everyone else. It's a dichotomy within his personality which constantly generates rich drama without ever falling prey to the tiresome soap opera angst present within other characters. It's worth watching Stargate Universe just for this fascinating character alone. The conclusion of the first season, a three-parter which bridges the gap into season 2, is a mixed bag for the show, incorporating many of its strongest and weakest elements. The Lucian Alliance's plot to take control of Destiny is rather uninteresting compared to the mystery surrounding the Destiny and the threat posed by the aliens. Despite being stranded on the other side of the universe, placing a domestic threat at the forefront of the season finale is an odd choice. Still, it results in some well-engineered action set pieces and a striking cliffhanger ending. The finale also makes another statement about Universe going forward. In this show, there are real consequences. Unlike SG-1 and Atlantis, which had to return to a strict status quo at the end of every adventure, Stargate Universe doesn't have the same kind of certainty. When the Lucian incursion fails, the surviving invaders stick around on the ship, becoming recurring characters throughout the rest of the show, and the regular characters sustain lasting injuries, such as TJ tragically losing her baby in a crossfire, and Dr. Park losing her eyesight in Season 2.
It's still dark. I can't see. Anything? No.
Stargate Universe returned for a second season on the 28th of September 2010, but this renewal was a contractual obligation rather than a sign of the show's success. The Sci-Fi Channel had ordered 40 episodes before Universe had even begun airing. However, the ratings for Season 1 declined sharply, shedding 25% of its viewership by the finale. In an attempt to boost the ratings, Sci-Fi shifted the show's time slot from Friday to Tuesday, but this ended up hurting the show even more. Despite the vocal backlash, Stargate Universe did amass a passionate fanbase who appreciated its differences and invested heavily in the show's characters. This fanbase, however, suddenly had a hard time finding the show when it returned for another season. The declining ratings and time slot shift were all a shame because Universe is overall much stronger in its second year, if somewhat uneven. Chloe Armstrong is sidelined for much of Season 2. It's rather obvious that the writers didn't know what to do with the character, and to put it bluntly, she was quite underwritten from the start. Chloe is mostly defined by her relationships to others, specifically Scott and Eli, but she has little agency of her own. There's very little substance behind Chloe and Scott's romance, as it mostly transpires off-screen. When it is put front and center, it's in weak episodes like the ill-conceived Cloverdale. The potential function of Chloe's character, being a regular civilian among a crew of scientists and soldiers, is already well served by Camille Ray. At first, Ray comes across as the typical IOA representative, the nagging pencil pusher who acts as a thorn in the side of the more courageous and intelligent characters. However, as the crew slowly settle into life aboard Destiny, Ray questioning the military authority over the ship is well justified at times, and despite her lack of training, she proves to be just as courageous and self-sacrificing as the others.
Shoot him. Even if he kills me, you can still get to the bomb.
Camille.
If you give him the gun, he'll kill us both. He's Lucian Alliance.
The subplot of the alien experiment slowly mutating Chloe goes on for far too long and ultimately doesn't add up to much. After all is said and done, Chloe is more intelligent than before, but there are already plenty of smart characters in the show. Chloe is smarter, but not so smart as to render Rush or Eli redundant, and so this story thread accomplishes very little. Despite this weak thread, Season 2 is where Stargate Universe finds its feet. The same is true for Colonel Young in the episode Trial and Error. Like many of the show's characters, Young is far from the best man for the job which has been thrust upon him. He is not incompetent, but he is prone to pettiness and bouts of anger. For much of the first season, he dictates rather than leads the Destiny crew. Trial and Error sees the continued pressures of command finally get to him. With his wife leaving him back home, Young is plagued by a recurring dream where no matter what he does, Destiny is destroyed by an alien attack.
Return fire.
We can't take on this many ships.
It's too late.
I suggest we shut down all non-essential systems, devote every scrap of power to the shields.
Let's do that.
Colonel, we got a problem. More alien shuttles are approaching. A lot more.
In the end, he steps up, not because he's the strongest, but because the crew needs him.
And it's never gonna stop hurting. It's the whole point. For the sake of everyone on this ship, you are gonna have to live with it.
Rather than leading from the front, Young becomes the person everyone else can rely on. From this point on, he is cooler-headed and more amenable. Whereas before he ruthlessly beat Rush and left him to die when he posed a threat, Young later hears Rush out when he tries to pull another fast one.
What are you saying?
That I'm trying to understand why he did what he did.
Trial and Error also brings up the fascinating possibility that Destiny itself is conscious in some way. It is suggested that Young's dreams were a battle simulation created by Destiny to test Young's resolve. There are other instances of Destiny conjuring the images of the dead to talk to people.
One of two things is happening here. Either I'm losing my mind, or you and Dr. Franklin have somehow been manifested by the ship in order to communicate with me. Now, he tends to be a little bit more helpful when it comes to technical matters.
Even after the crew has gained control of Destiny, there are still a lot of lingering mysteries surrounding the ship. And that's where Season 2 excels the most, in its longer arcs. The revelation of Destiny's true mission, a search for signs of intelligence from the dawn of time, is utterly fascinating.
We're talking about a mystery rooted in the foundation of reality. A puzzle with pieces scattered across the length and breadth of the universe itself. We're talking about a level of order, present at the very beginning of space-time, that goes beyond anything we ever conceived. I believe that the more we learn, then the greater our power to control everything around us will be.
So it is about power.
Power to change things. Control our fate. Right the wrongs.
The potential of the concept is touched on in episodes like Faith and Visitation.
Some kind of alien language.
Do you think it's the same ones we keep running into?
Not with this level of technology.
What, to build this thing?
No. To create a planet.
Wait, you're telling me they built the star, too?
That would make them the #1 all-time advanced civilization.
That would be an understatement.
The drone threat, which arises in Season 2, is a classic Stargate conundrum where every solution only presents more problems. Once again, Stargate's carefully managed internal continuity creates a tense intellectual puzzle, as well as a stream of spectacular action. However, the Novus arc is easily the best part of the show. When the Destiny crew encounter humans at this end of the universe, they discover an entire civilization spawned from the descendants of themselves from an alternate timeline who were sent 2 millennia into the past. Novus is the kind of speculative science fiction which feels ripped right from the pages of an Arthur C. Clarke or Ursula K. Le Guin novel. It is vast in scope, but also profoundly intimate. Viewing historical records of their alternate selves shows many characters their worst nightmares and greatest dreams come true.
I wish I could do a more accurate diagnosis, but it sounds like ALS. Lou Gehrig's disease.
For a group of people who were never meant to be on this mission and are often afraid they aren't good enough, Novus shows their incredible potential. The camaraderie and adventurous spirit some Stargate fans thought was missing from Universe is present within this story arc, just not in the way they expected.
We will prosper as long as we can remember above anything else we need each other. And we need to help each other.
Despite all the mistakes behind them and the challenges ahead of them, the Destiny crew see through Novus that they can pull together and create something beautiful. A sentiment which is true of the show itself. Stargate Universe's 2 seasons are a bumpy ride, but it undoubtedly sticks the landing in its final episode, Gauntlet. With drone command ships blockading their fuel source, Eli suggests placing everyone into stasis and extending their power reserves to remain in FTL until they reach the next galaxy. But when they are 1 stasis pod short of the entire crew, Eli chooses to stay awake.
I'll do it.
Eli.
If you stay out, it's automatic. You're dead. If I do it, at least I have a chance. Maybe even a better chance than Rush. I've been content to stay in his shadow. Play the part of the eager young protege, take his orders, but I'm not afraid to say it anymore. I'm smarter than him.
I can't ask you to do that.
And I can't take no for an answer.
Eli Wallace could have easily been a worse version of Rodney McKay, but he turns out to be one of the best, if not the best, character of the show. It's fitting that David Blue, being such a huge Stargate fan, ended up playing a character who so perfectly embodies the spirit of Stargate. Whereas other characters in Stargate Universe are prone to navel-gazing and cynicism, Eli is always active and optimistic, with a robust sense of humour. Any potential irritation the viewer may feel stemming from Eli's bumbling awkwardness is quickly quashed by the character's intellect, sociability, and proactive nature.
I put a Kino in a search mode and sent it into unpressurized areas of the ship looking for an active console somewhere. Also, I was looking into if there's any way we could integrate the shuttle's power with the ship's system.
So you're working the problem?
Yeah.
In many ways, Eli is Rush's ultimate foil, the walking rebuttal to all of Rush's judgments about himself and the world. While Rush looks down on others and blames his superior intellect for his social isolation, Eli is socially popular and even smarter than he is. As a result, Rush simultaneously admires and despises Eli.
You know, maybe I haven't said this often enough, Eli, but you do have tremendous potential. I'd hate to see you throw it all away.
It's fitting then that Stargate Universe ends with Eli, the embodiment of Stargate's spirit, alone on Destiny, gazing out at the cosmos. At the end of its second season, Stargate Universe was cancelled due to low ratings. The show remains controversial among fans to this day, hated by some and loved by others. Speaking for myself, while SG-1 remains my favourite Stargate show with Atlantis a close second, Universe is one I appreciate more and more. Despite its occasional dips into tiresome soap opera and the gratuity of some of its content, Stargate Universe ultimately succeeds as the more grounded and the most human Stargate show. By the end of its second season, this discordant group of flawed people really came together, not just as a crew, but as a family.
We've been through a hell of a lot together, that's for sure. We're family now. Sons, daughters, sisters, even the slightly crazy uncle who, despite everything, still manages to come through for you in the end. To family.
Stargate Universe was continued in comic book form after it was cancelled, but it's a bittersweet resolution to what was shaping up to be a genuinely enthralling and beautiful story. MGM's financial difficulties worsened during Universe's run, with the company declaring bankruptcy a month before Universe's second season. MGM's woes crippled any financial support for any future Stargate projects, and the rapidly declining DVD market put an end to any more movies in development. In a shockingly short amount of time, Stargate fell from its peak of popularity to being a dead franchise. Atlantis actor Joe Flanagan famously tried to revive Stargate as a TV show with financial backing from Europe, but the shifting corporate owners of the property weren't interested. The mismanagement continued when in 2018, MGM attempted to launch Stargate Command, a streaming platform exclusively for Stargate. The flagship product to launch this platform was a cheaply produced and poorly conceived web series titled Stargate Origins. The less said about this and the failed streaming platform, the better. Stargate is a strange entity in the pantheon of science fiction icons. It was on TV for so long, and yet it feels as though it ended too early. In comparison to Star Trek's death in 2005, where the creative heads of the mythos had clearly run out of steam, Stargate still seemed so full of potential. It would be a shame for any reboot to jettison the lore built up over so many years. The future remains to be seen, and there will always be a future, because there is always one more adventure waiting on the other side of the Stargate. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this Stargate retrospective. There will be a couple more videos on Stargate to supplement this series, so if you want to know when those videos are up, subscribe and hit the bell icon to make sure you're notified. To see videos early, you can hop over to my Patreon page, where you can watch retrospectives like this uncut and ad-free. I'd like to say thank you to all of my patrons and members, with an ultra thanks to Eamon Kelly, Michael Hardy, Ian Hodge, County Ark, Mike Halsey, Retro PC Gamer, Benjamin Stokes, Hiroshi the Dog, Movie Magic, Charles Borsam, Olivia Computer, Bano, Extreme Streamers, Tom, Dusk, Colin Camille, Patrick Fleming, Matthew Camille, Ed Mark Starr, Dylan Thomas, Lilac Yane, Howard Craig Kervik, and Kajing G. Thank you once again for watching, and until next time, have a good one.